Hey, everybody. Afternoon, morning, daylight, night, wherever you are in the world, wherever you are on the planet, outer space, maybe the stratosphere. I'm Tal Griffin. Hope everybody's doing well today. Uh, and disclaimer, I've avoided saying in the last couple of podcasts is that under no circumstances do we observe religion, sex, political stance, or gender affirmation. It is pertaining to the topic of discussion, and all others will not be acknowledged. It is based on individual philosophy and belief, and if brought up during conversations, I can either allow or deny in reference to that. And if one persists, they can be asked to leave after first warning. Now, with that being said, let's get on with this and let's launch this rocket. So, something that came up was about koi fish and becoming a dragon. That the way for that to happen is for the koi fish to swim up a waterfall. Now, this brings one to the question: what is it I must do to be able to swim up that waterfall? What is it that is involved? What is it that this entails? Well, that is a question that has been, in a sorts or in a way, challenging for me. If I were the koi fish and I wanted to become the dragon, what would I have to come to face to find it within me to be able to get up that waterfall? Which I would think would take a bunch of reflection and introspection to do it. Now, in a way, we can look at this in a couple of different perspectives. Is that we can look at it from the dragon, which is what one has become. Or we could look at it from the koi fish and one that has the desire. Hopefully, maybe they don't have the desire to become the dragon. But you still have the waterfall. And that another would be, how steep is the waterfall? How tall is it? What's the water? What's the current? So there are aspects to this. If it's a fast flowing waterfall, how far do I have to dig in strength wise to go up that waterfall? And that once I'm there, what kind of dragon will I become? And what will be the purpose, or what's the purpose of me becoming that dragon? Maybe I'm happy being a koi fish. And for those that might have forgotten what a koi fish is, it looks like an oversized goldfish that come in different colors. You've got your gold, reddish, your blotched, calico, ginger color kois. And they've got these big eyes, and they're a pretty mellow fish, I guess. But then on the other side, you have dragons, and there are different types of dragons. You have your dragons that are set and designed to cause harm, others to help, others to protect.
Well, there's a Western versus Eastern perception of dragons.
That's true, there are. That's true. And this is where I have to admit that my lack of knowledge on dragons, of which philosophy and which perception. Now, here being a Western philosophy or thought and upbringing, is that we view dragons as a means of destruction. Okay. But in the Eastern, there's wisdom, there's creation, there's nurturing, and there is guardian. Now, in a sense, let's look at the nature of a dragon. That they can be kind, they can be nurturing, be protective over their young, and highly ferocious and vicious. And yet, in some cases, might breathe fire. But that can be the nature of that dragon. So, but on the other side, we know that koi fish are fairly peaceful, that they swim around and they're in a pond. But yet, what is hidden in that koi fish that it stores?
The
That,
potential of a dragon.
okay, but yet, what is the potential? What is that potential? What does that koi fish have within them to be that potential? So, and let's look at it from another angle. We're the koi fish, and yet some have already swam the waterfall and have become the dragon. What was it that it took to get up that waterfall? And maybe some are in the process of swimming the waterfall to become, which requires change, understanding, knowing yourself. Am I lacking confidence in the strength to swim that waterfall? Or is my strength only false, only saying that I want to become? It's like, yeah, I want to be a part of that. I want to become the dragon, but yet lack the character to become the dragon. It'll lack the desire and the will to undergo, and the tenacity and the fortitude to swim the waterfall and find that strength to become it in order to take on the responsibilities of that dragon and the purpose of that dragon and the privilege to become that dragon. Because one cannot be something greater than you are without understanding what goes with it. What else is taken on when one transforms, once one changes and becomes. And what philosophy and perspective are you going to become that dragon under? These are questions that have two sides of the coin. It's a double-bladed sword. It's a two-pronged question. And yes, I'm getting into some of the semantics here, but however, it begs the topic of discussion, right? It's a valid question. But yet you're still a koi. And maybe there's an inherent philosophy in life the koi has that's the same across, no matter where you grew up, no matter where you were raised, no matter who raised you. Maybe there's just an inherent part of being a koi. So let's go back to what type of koi. So hard to answer. It's a hard answer to find. Not saying it's unanswerable. And this is where with this, I openly admit that I am a bit ignorant of, or maybe I'm haven't looked into it far enough in the philosophy. So with that, I think I would, in this case, defer to somebody that might know more about this. When Julie, would you please take the floor on this one?
Me? I'm
Yeah.
teaching the class now?
Yeah.
What about what gets us up that waterfall? Could
Okay.
it be the choices we make? What kind of pushes us to do it?
Right. Would the water be smooth or would the water be rough?
It's a waterfall. It's crashing down on you.
Well, yeah, it's true. It
And
is.
then at the bottom, it's kind of rippling the water, so it's like it's pushing water away from you anyway, and you're going up it.
Yeah, it is. So
And
you're
so,
fighting.
so it's going to be hard.
Well,
I
yeah, I
mean,
mean,
everybody's got some waterfall that they're going to have to climb in their life, or in one way or another, unless
yeah,
they
because let's
unless
look.
they're avoidant.
Okay, yeah, because let's look at a waterfall. You know, the waterfall comes down and it's created. it's a free fall, and then at the bottom of it there is this swirling which can pull one under. So okay, let's look at the waterfall then. What do we have to do to get up it? To swim against that current. And what does that current and waterfall represent? What's the metaphorical perspective of that waterfall?
Could be something difficult in life,
Okay, yeah.
and how you get up it, how you address it, how you, even in ways of how, like, your expected points of expected conduct or whatever, how you're using those to figure out how to address it.
Yeah. So,
In a sense, like principle wise, or
yeah. And maybe this is where the maybe we're going about looking at this at the wrong way. Is one ready to swim that waterfall? Even though one is desirous of it, even if one is wanting and willing to, is one ready? Is one ready to take on that challenge?
not everyone is. I mean, how rare is it to see a dragon? I mean, come on.
Well, yeah, I mean, come on, we've only seen pictures of things, right? We've
Yeah.
seen the strong, brutish, powerful, and yet we in the eastern, the longer serpents type of dragon, the wisdom, the creation, the dragon that can create or defend or protect.
So, what about looking at it this way? What is actually required to swim up the waterfall?
Okay. So that would be within the koi, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Or even like metaphorically in our own lives.
okay, true. I'm on board with that. So let's look at a time that maybe we were the koi and we were willing to swim that waterfall. But let's maybe take this into a different perspective here. Okay. People say you've got a mountain to climb, and I'm in the middle of climbing the mountain, which is a different reference. Same aspect. Instead of instead of being the koi, you're the climber. And the mountain is the waterfall. Same adage. different form. So, what must one do as a climber to be able to climb that mountain? And the difficulty, what must one go through and endure? Well, let's look at what one faces when climbing a mountain and what a climber or a mountaineer has gone through to be able to climb. Well, the willingness to be vulnerable and exposed to the mercy of the elements, lack of control, that yet you still have to hold on to the face, just like the koi has to be able to swim within the current or against the current. Okay, so you're holding. So does that mean that the fortitude, how long and hard does one have to hold your place on the face or your place in the current? You've got one being gravity, and you've got the water coming down on you, and the other, you have gravity plus wind and maybe snowfall, depending on where you're climbing, depending on what time of year, and the climate, the elements that come along with it. Or is the waterfall calmer, or is it raging? But
Either way, if you're a koi fish, it is working in the opposite direction.
okay, so the koi must have the strength to find within them as they take that leap of faith. What is it they are going to discover in that time swimming that waterfall? The strength, even when your strength is failing, you still have to find it to get there. After all, doesn't a dragon require great strength in order to be a dragon? Great wisdom, understanding, experience.
So you think that in climbing the waterfall, they're gaining the experience needed to become that dragon?
Well, you had to have something to be able to get up the waterfall. Something else besides sheer will had to be able to get you up it, to not quit, right? So, what would it be? What are you? Is it that you're willing to sacrifice, maybe, to become that dragon? What is it that you are having to go through internally? What struggle? What are you fighting within? What are you fighting against? Maybe the waterfall is just a metaphorical for the internal.
Or the changes that we need to make in our own lives.
Mm-hmm. Because we all face that. We all face that time and that pivotal point in our lives. And something happens for us to have to face. Now, in a way, now looking at this, I may be able to speak with some experience on this. And of course, this is only my experience. And I'm going to reveal a bit of personal stuff here. Is that about 4.5 years ago, my wife had upped and left. And that one of the reasons was because of a dysfunction I have of ADHD. And that there come challenges with that of learning to manage that. And that after I was left with near nothing of income and in an income of funds of money, I did get help in some ways. But that aside, what is it that one undergoes during that time, which we could say would be the waterfall from the world you knew and the struggles that go with it? I would say that there were many moments there was plenty of doubt, a lot of turmoil, a lot of asking why and what. But in the process, one discovers in resources, because nothing in that waterfall statement does it say it has to be done at once. It's not just you start and you're done. Nothing in that statement to become the dragon says it has to happen overnight. So, in the transition and in the growing and in the change that I had experienced, one has to find the resources in order to be able to move forward. And in this case, maybe move up the water. you find a greater strength. You find an internal strength. And realities change, perspectives change, sometimes more cynical, and become more reality based. And opinions lack to carry as much weight. So one becomes more realistic. And that the option to stop doesn't have a place because it is a constant effort in moving forward. Maybe not as much one day, 1 week, but great bounds can be done when required, or maybe gradually over a long period. And so a internal change happens because you are looking at yourself in a more critical way, because you don't have the option to allow yourself to stop. And so are there moments and times when a person physically is hungry and is mentally hungry, emotionally drained, physically tired and drained? Yes. Is there pain involved? Immensely. Great amount. And another question can come of, am I going to make it? What else is it going to take? Because in some cases, with the koi, has to go up the waterfall, that koi may have chosen, but in some cases, in mine, I didn't have that choice. It was placed in my lap. It was that, here, you have no choice. You're going to have to do this now. Now, what are you going to do with it? Well, that brings on a different set of circumstances. One can be mutual, and it could be a peaceful, or, as in this case, I was forced to have to make those choices. Now, I could have picked up and left everything behind and thrown my hands up, but would that still would not have ever changed the struggle? That would have still put me in a place that I would have had to have changed and endure and go through the internal, even in a different environment. So one has to look, I would think, and from the experience of, what is it that one can focus on for the time to get them up the waterfall. And I guess maybe what becomes your why? What is the motivation? Where does the motivation come from? And so, why is it also one wishes to become a dragon? What is the reason one wants to be that dragon? After all, one could be happy being just a koi. And swimming in that pond where things are calm. But yet, swimming up that waterfall is going to be nothing short of that, or it's going to be nothing short of trying, of violent, of testing your mettle. Now, looking back, I will say that the time up to now, over the last 4+ years, her leaving was not the start of that climb, was not the start of the swim. There were things that led to it. Some are unknown to me. Many are unknown to me, but that's not important now. Is that what's important is that one is in the process. One is still undergoing. And then one looks back and can look down and look behind you. Go, look what I've already accomplished. What did I already succeed in getting through? Now, it's not to say that one doesn't undergo a drastic change in that process and you don't learn about yourself, because you will. It is inevitable. It is inevitable you will find things out about yourself you did not know were there. Where you were kind and you had weakness, you had to quit being so kind. And where you were weak, you had to find where you were lacking in order to gain strength and to make those choices and decisions that go against what your nature may be. Or maybe it was already there and you just had to have that circumstance, that event, and that reason to open that part of you up that would be required to be part of being that dragon. Maybe one finds a hunger. And when one is calm, and in turn, where one should become angry and driven, or just driven. and where one was lacking in what to become angry over, should become angry, should become the agent of change for yourself, or maybe in the process, go, this was caused without my choice, or I chose to do this, but however, maybe in either case, I took it on voluntarily, or I must show my strength. And maybe I'm looking at this reference and this relating to this completely wrong. Or maybe my aspect and maybe what my perception is that could be off. But I will say that in the process, your skin becomes tougher. Your emotions become less available at times. Mentally, you change. Wisdom comes, experience changes, and from all that change, you gain the experience, and wisdoms are grown and gained and acquired. Things that we were taught become more accessible. So, is this the change that one undergoes when swimming upstream? Because what does a dragon have to carry with them as a dragon? Because a dragon has to have wisdom, has to have the experience, has to have undergone and learned to endure. Because in that change, you are creating something else. You're creating another world around you, a different world. Because when you're leaving one world, or what you know, in this case, the koi in the pond, you are becoming a symbol, a representation, that change, that insight, that experience, that wisdom. One's character changes. Because a dragon is depended on for guidance, for wisdom, for knowledge. And maybe that dragon has to guide. But the koi had to be shown how to get to the waterfall. And what was it in that koi that made them decide, okay, it's time. It's a call. Okay, the waterfall is now a task I must undergo. So has one become the dragon once they've started that ascent? Because you're willing to take on and become all of it already. Do the answers reveal themselves once you hit that ascent and you start? And that at the end you realize, maybe I was already the dragon. I just wasn't aware of it. Or maybe it was your time as a koi was over and it was already chosen for you, which I guess in my case, yeah, it was chosen for me. So it was up to me to decide, do I sink? Do I drown? Do I stay meek? Do I stay with weakness and avoid and starve? Or do I get up and say, okay, not today? And then, so what becomes the why? Be able to say, you made it. But what defines that why? That you gain from it every time it happens, when it's happening. So, and there are those that may be undergoing that same circumstance, and they are having a harder time, and they are still lost, and they're still finding their way, which in some cases, I am still finding my way. However, I think what we learn along the way propels us further. And maybe that waterfall isn't the short term. Maybe, as in some cases, some people refer to the path of life, the relationship within ourselves and that around us. And the reconciliation and the harmony that one has to come to during an evolution, the evolving, the changing, the becoming. And I might be missing something in here because, like many, I am still on this journey. I am still undergoing. I'm still discovering, as many of you are. And during it, sometimes we still have to undertake a new task, a new time, something that will help us maintain and the destination. And maybe the path isn't always the long path we walk, or in this case, the waterfall. Maybe there are times when we have to stop and we can look back. But no one said it had to be right now, right? So in a way, wouldn't that be subjective? But you know your objective point is to become that dragon. And maybe when you reach the stage that you can look back and you can still stand on your own feet and go, okay, now I've become the dragon. Now I have to learn to become that, be that dragon. I've undergone the hard stuff, the deciding and the defining of the metal, right? While you're swimming it. Now, how does one be the dragon? How does one conduct themselves as the dragon? What is it that dragon's going to draw from? Well, what they learned swimming up the waterfall, I would assume. So, but then again, which is it that possessed that koi to go up the waterfall? And who's to say that koi is ready to be the dragon? Maybe that dragon may fail. But in that, wouldn't one strive to be the dragon they're supposed to be? And be that dragon that they were always destined to be. And they knew what was to be a part of that dragon during their journey, during the endeavor, during the task. And it was already known. You are already the dragon. You just had to shed the scales and the appearance of being the koi. Neither you were that koi that already showed the others where the food was at, where the shelter was to be found, where to stay warm during the cold time, which way to swim when the current changed, or when to be warm when it was cold, and to take in the sunlight and the warmth from the sun while you're in the water. You may have already been that, but you just had to have and take on a different form already in order to validate that. So I would think the answer to all of those questions would be yes. Yes, you're willing. Yes, you're ready. Yes, you can. And yes, it was time. Just when does one realize it? Because when one makes that commitment to start, I would think one has become, because you were willing to be committed to it. How you do it, I don't think it matters. Is that you were already there. I could be wrong, but something tells me when one is willing to swim the waterfall, you are already the dragon, and you are transforming from what you were along the way. And that you have created, you have undertaken. And of course, this is only one perspective. But yet, if one is that dragon, and there's something I left out of this the whole time. Not every koi is to become a dragon. So only a select chosen is to be the dragon. How many koi swim that waterfall and don't get up it? Or
I don't
maybe,
know. I haven't seen many dragons.
right. But yet, when do dragons appear? Definitely, maybe when we're not looking or when we're not supposed to see them. Maybe one already is. And maybe we were just too busy with other things to see it. So the koi and the dragon. And maybe also along with that, not forgetting you're the koi or you were. For all I know, maybe you're a flying fish, you know? And you just maintained being the koi with a set of wings. Who knows? But yet, as you said, there aren't many dragons. There were only a select type of dragons, only a select number of dragons. So I would think that that koi that becomes the dragon would be a rare koi indeed. Would be one that is deserving of that.
It is the koi that is willing to face the waterfall and make it up it.
Yeah. Yeah. And undergo what is required. Because when one leaves what they knew, that's never easy. There is a sacrificing and a letting go and a walking through. And there is much discomfort. in that leaving that life and existence, one knew. There is great discomfort in having to become something, someone different than what you were. Because no one ever stays the same once they've gone through that time, that journey. Physically, yes. Fundamentally, maybe in a way they still are. But they are never the same person. No one is. Nothing ever is. Maybe, and there is a reason why. There always will be. But however, the coys that aren't chosen, the coys that chose, that weren't selected to do it, maybe they were also what was needed to be learned from in order to become and be that, to be that dragon. Maybe those coys in that pond with you were the reason you had to go up that waterfall. It may have been time for one to evolve from being a koi and the kois that you swam with. So the two sides and the two perspectives of a dragon, that yes, there is great strength and power and a majestic creature and the majesty in that strength, that ability to take on. And that yet on the other, from the Eastern, the wisdom, the nurturing, the caring. Now, I'm not saying that wisdom and that dragon from the Eastern and the Buddhist philosophy isn't capable of great destruction, but yet it may probably and would choose a more harmonious. I could be assuming when I say that.
They do represent a sense of harmony.
Yeah.
And the koi fish swimming in a circle, two koi fish being the yin yang symbol,
So
symbolizes harmony.
so would that be one has undergone a different stage of harmony, an internal balance, and a stage in life? Graduation, maybe to put it plainly. I don't know. But this question that came up and this that came up, and I could have completely missed the boat on this. Okay. And the only thing that I could refer to was my own experience. And put that out there. Okay. And revealing something about myself in the process. Now, there are other things in there that, are probably best left out. And things that probably best, and one could understand the journey and the trials that come along with it. Okay. And in a way, there's no cause for sympathy either, or pity. Understanding, compassion, empathy, compassion, understanding, wisdom. And in that, that's already within the majority of people, the majority. But letting it happen, undergoing the task, undergoing and being willing to go through it, to achieve that. That in itself, there's something to be said. There's something to be said about the koi that made that journey. There's something to be said about what that koi became when it became that dragon. Now, I'm no Buddhist monk, okay? Like any of you out there, I am still trying to understand. I am still searching. Hey, do I understand some things? Yes. Am I still looking to understand more? Yes. Is this whole koi swimming up the waterfall to become the dragon? That's going to require more work. That's going to require more in depth. Because this one, I have to say, stumped me. Because there's this friend of mine, this person I know, that during a conversation, and this also stumped me. When the master is ready, the student will appear. Put that on your thinking, put that thinking cap on. Work on that one. Chew that fat for a little while. Maybe in those two things, there is a relationship with it. I don't know. Maybe I just added something and muddied the water more. But maybe in this also, it means that nothing is ever set. There is no absolute in what we are. We start out one way, but when the time comes, we are something else. We become something other than what we were. When we started out this life, we came out of our mother's womb. crying. Maybe that start wasn't so easy either. But in the process, things became easier. That infant became stronger. Then was able to sustain itself without the aid. Or, and then when you got to a point, and now later, one has made that, and with a turn of events, something get could never have been foreseen ends up happening, which would cause one to have to change and to become that different, to become the different. This is this one is this one is a teaser, and I love stuff like this stuff. So again, what drives the koi to become the dragon? Or is that koi already the dragon? Maybe it's a water dragon, just depending on how it's seen.
Baby dragon.
Baby dragon, yes, but there are water dragons, just as like there are land dragons and there are aerial dragons able to take flight. So maybe that koi is just the example of one dragon. And who's to say it was a complete ginger or a red koi? These are subjective views. These are subjective thoughts. This is a deep thought for pondering, and maybe I'm looking at it too deeply. And it's just very obvious. I don't know. But this one was something that caught my attention. And I have to say that it is intriguing. Because I've talked about this other many times, change, the ethics, the morals, all of that stuff, right? This one caught my attention to rant over, to talk about, to ask questions, to maybe raise questions for each of you, for you to ask yourselves. And to also say that for those that are undergoing a very hard time due to circumstances that you did not foresee coming, in your own personal lives. Do not stop. Do not quit. Maybe you might be going through a self-destructive phase. That's okay. It happens to the best of them. But do not stop. Do not lay down. Even if you don't want to, get the hell up. Put on your clothes. At least maybe eat something. But do not quit. Maybe you starve for a bit, but maybe that might be your motivation to not stop. And maybe you have to go through and add it alone. And that's okay also. Maybe you have to discover. But I will tell you, when you get through the end of it and you get to that point and look back, that time you went through, that was rough. You can always say when things aren't going so well, it can be worse. It would have been, this could have been much worse if it weren't for me have already going through what I went through. This is another day in the office. I've got this. I can handle this one. Because I had been through a similar time before, a couple of other times. And due to that, I could face this. It's like it's been much worse. This was not my first walk in and time in. It sucks. But if it's your first time in that, hold on for the ride and enjoy it. Embrace it and appreciate it. That may not be what you want to hear right now. Appreciate all of this hating, this resentment, this anger, the sorrow, the disappointment, the asking why, and the failure. It will reshape you. It will make you better. And hopefully you learn and aren't and you don't ever go through it again. But something will be different that you can refer to this back to and go, it has been worse. And believe me, it won't be the first time and it won't be the last. But it will always suck differently. Just like every koi and every waterfall is different and every dragon is different. And none of that koi, waterfall, and dragon was it ever specified specifically what. And maybe that's because there isn't supposed to be a specific way or a specific type or a specific what or why. All we know is that at the end, we define who we are. And that through that journey, it will define and help us define what dragon we will be if you make that journey. Some people won't. And for those that don't, may your after be peaceful. And for those that do, don't hate. Don't hold that resentment. Remember what you gained. Maybe you lost everything, but gained more, which is very likely going to be the case. You gained more than just what was taken from your wallet, taking from your home, taking the home that you lived in. And it will be different. It's going to suck. But then again, dragons never have it easy either. They go through their times as well. But the thing is that they have developed the character to be the dragon. They became the dragon. Now, I'm not saying go in and go wreck the world. I'm saying be what would truly define you. Be what you have defined yourself to be afterwards. And in this, I do give caution. Okay? Do not allow yourself to be swayed. Do not allow yourself to become involved in something that will cause you to totally compromise your own beliefs. Because if one is to become a dragon, your values, your character, your morals, your ethics, your tenacity that are yours, do not lose them. Do not allow somebody else to tell you that those are wrong. Do not allow somebody to corrupt your own mind. It is yours. Don't fall into a trap. Don't fall into a false. Stay the course, stay the path, stay the direction, remain focused. When in need, ask. Do not suffer in silence from it. But that's the waterfall. So, anyway, that's what I have today. Maybe I was completely off on some of this. Maybe I was going to by just wake him off the top of my head. I don't know. But I will say this before I go. If you're in that point of your life, reach out. don't stay in silence with it. If you need help, go find it. There are numbers out there all over the place. There's information all over the place. There are people you can call. And if you need to leave a situation, that's okay to leave it. But do not suffer in silence. When you leave the situation that isn't the best for you, that is strength. And do not count yourself as weak. So if you are in the place in your life that was unforeseen and something happened, take the step. Pick up the phone, call a friend, call a professional, get the help. But do not let yourself down. And for that, may everybody have a good day. Thank you.